In this video, I'm going to present to you the 5 most common reasons why relationships break up, and it's worth knowing them first so you can prevent your relationship from falling apart. But if it has already happened, so you can draw the right conclusions about why your relationship ended. Because if you don't learn from it, every one of your future relationships could also fall apart. Let's get started. My name is Robert Marshall, and I've been helping people save their relationships for 17 years, so I have a lot of experience. I rely solely on data. I've also read a ton of theoretical knowledge on this topic, so everything you hear today is based on facts and experience. Reason number 1, the most common and the most ordinary one, a natural, gradual breakup of the relationship. It's not like they told us in Disney fairy tales where they met and lived happily ever after. Unfortunately, maintaining a healthy, happy relationship really takes a lot of effort. Just like keeping your body healthy forever is practically impossible. The natural state of our body, our health, is aging and eventually death. And our relationships are programmed the same way. Fortunately, this breakdown can be stopped, but you really have to put a lot of energy into it and develop quite a few skills to maintain a happy relationship. Or, you could just be born really lucky and be a perfect match for your partner. Then, if you're in that 1 or 2% of people who stay in happy relationships for life, you're really lucky. Otherwise, you really need to develop some serious skills. But if someone doesn't have those skills, doesn't know how to take care of the relationship, it naturally goes through stages and eventually reaches the last stage, which is an empty relationship, or even a breakup. If, for example, something happens, one partner or the other meets someone new, then the relationship will simply fall apart. However, this natural process of gradually drifting apart is completely normal, and it's important to be aware that it happens. I couldn't leave this off the list. This is number 1, one of the most important reasons. Reason number 2 is poor communication. Unfortunately, good communication is something you have to learn, and it's practically not taught anywhere, so it's completely normal that arguments come up in a relationship, and they mainly happen because either one or both partners don't know how to communicate. That means when something bothers me, something hurt me, or I want to change something about my partner, I don't know how to express it gently in a way that doesn't trigger a defensive reaction in my partner. And when I say something like, "You never wipe the table after yourself when you get up," an accusatory tone makes the other person unable to see my frustration or how tired I am of constantly repeating what my partner should do. They only see an attack, feel attacked, and shut themselves off from any feedback. Because of this, hostility grows. Sometimes that hostility builds up, and the couple drifts further and further apart. So learning effective communication, talking about what you feel and what you need without triggering that defensive reaction, is one of the key skills that will make your relationship much happier, even if your partner doesn't lift a finger in that direction. Because if you feel attacked, but also learn how to diffuse those attacks, how to reach an understanding, and get to the bottom of what's really bothering your partner, your relationship can still become much, much better. And over time, your partner will start learning this from you. Reason number 3 is unresolved conflicts. And I don't mean arguments here, but real issues that might be bothering you. For example, you like to go out when you have free time, but your wife or husband prefers to stay at home. Or you believe that you should help your kids with their homework, while the other person thinks it's not worth doing. And here's where some friction, some conflict comes up. These can be conflicts about money, about cleaning, about sex. If they're not resolved, if there aren't any clear rules set, they'll tear the relationship apart from the inside and build up more and more hostility, which will accumulate over time and will weaken the bond and the feelings. Of course, this isn't easy, but you can also learn how to manage conflicts. And the ideal approach here is the win-win method, where through effective communication and talking with each other, you can often come up with a solution that works well for both you and the other person. And importantly, this isn't a compromise where neither side wins, but rather finding a solution where both sides come out as winners. The 4th factor is a broken balance of commitment in your relationship. And there are 2 ways this can happen. You can be too withdrawn in the relationship at a time when the other person is trying, giving a lot of warmth, trying to fix your relationship, but nothing works, and sooner or later the person who is making the effort gets fed up, pulls away too, and that's usually when the relationship falls apart. But it can also go the other way. When you are the nice person, you try, you show how much you care, you show your desperation that you'll do anything for this person just to keep him with you. And unfortunately, in the long run, that's also very unattractive and can ruin the relationship. Because when the other person sees that you're always there, no matter what they do or no matter what kind of stuff they pull, so to speak, you're always there, you always forgive everything, and you're just too good to them, then you won't have as much respect. I know it shouldn't be like that we should give as much as we can, as much as we know how, as much as we want, without looking at whether the other person gives us something in return or not. But unfortunately, that's not how relationships work. If you give too much, if you're too nice, too good, unfortunately, it can negatively affect how attractive you are to that person. And that's on a purely animalistic level. It doesn't make any logical sense at all. It's purely emotional, all about feelings. Very often, working on that balance of involvement, just so you don't sell yourself short, don't show desperation, don't beg, don't plead, but instead give the other person enough space, will make it so that when that space appears, the other person will naturally want to spend more time with you. Naturally, she'll feel that you've pulled back a bit, so she'll have the space to put in a little more effort for you. And the worst thing you can do is break that balance by complaining about the lack of time, lack of involvement, lack of warmth, affection, and so on. So this is a very common reason why relationships fall apart and partners grow further and further apart from each other. In any case, the balance of involvement is a very important factor, and it's worth taking it into account when considering whether things are really working well in your relationship. The fifth reason is the loss of a friendly bond. What I said in that first point, that a relationship naturally falls apart over time, that's all true, of course. However, those relationships that last a lifetime are never based on someone being in love forever, like in that first stage, the first few months or the first year of being together, when you can't stop thinking about the other person and you have that intense, powerful feeling of being in love. Relationships never look like that, and they can't. Because it would be way too exhausting to go through life constantly being so completely in love with someone. It's almost like a drug. That's why those long-term relationships that last a lifetime and are truly happy are based on a friendship bond, on being each other's best friends. Plus, there's sexuality and physical intimacy between us. On the other hand, relationships often fail because partners neglect their friendship bond. They stop spending quality time or trying new things, living parallel lives. Often, this is called monotony, as routine takes over. Constantly repeating the same things, talking about bills, logistics, managing the house, loans, and other mundane matters, instead of being interested in what's happening in the other person's life, instead of giving each other quality time together. This is also an art, and it can be learned. But unfortunately, it's not easy, and it takes some effort. It requires some planning. Unfortunately, it rarely happens on its own. So this is clearly a fifth, very strong factor that often leads to the breakup of a relationship. And of course, there are more of these factors. For example, I haven't mentioned emotional or physical infidelity here, even though that's also a common reason for relationships ending. Of course, though, infidelity is often more a result of those earlier neglects than a cause in itself. So, if the relationship stopped being enjoyable, if I stopped liking it, and suddenly someone else attractive appeared, then the tendency to cheat is much, much higher than in a relationship that's high quality, where everything is going well, where we're best friends, and both people feel good together. So there's actually a lot you can do to take care of your relationship. If you'd like to learn much more about this topic, go to institutesv.acute.pl, and there in the shop section, you'll find courses on conflict management, effective communication, building a friendly bond, influencing your partner, and much, much more. I've worked on this topic for many years and know a lot about it, so I'm sure this knowledge will make your relationship much better. Thanks for today. Robert Marchell, institutesv.coacute.pl.